Welcome to AIDEM Interactions. Today we have got Ms. Subhashini Ali, who is the Polit Bureau member of the CPIM and who, as everyone knows, is a prominent Marxist politician. And today we will be discussing the legal and political aspects of the Uttarakhand Uniform Code Bill, which is passed with the Assembly. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, thank you.
And before going into the details of the bill, I think I would initially want to place the bill in a larger political context that we have today. How do you look at the promise that was given by the BJP government throughout of a uniform civil code and the part implementation of it by the Uttarakhand Assembly now? And how do you place this in the larger political context that we have?
You see, the BJP has always promised a uniform civil code, and it was obviously promised at the central level to be applicable to all Indian citizens. That is what it means. But they always are looking at their political prospects also, and they know that there's a lot of opposition. Even the Law Commission, as you know, has said that it's neither necessary nor is it recommended. So that was when they first came out with the first questionnaire some years ago. And the Law Commission itself made very good suggestions. And I'm very happy that actually some of those suggestions literally quoted from a resolution passed by our organization, the AIDEM, Equal Rights, Equal Laws, in which we talk about gender justice and gender justice within communities also, and how that is the goal to which we should try and move. And in that we've always said that even Hindu women who are being held up as if they have got always all the rights and all the equal laws because they're Hindus and the Hindu community is so progressive. Actually, as you know, right from the time when our constitution was passed, there's been huge opposition to giving Hindu women rights also. And Dr. Ambedkar, in fact, resigned on this issue. And the Hindu Code Bill was brought in a piecemeal fashion. And it was, I think, only in about 2002 that their inheritance rights also became more equal. But even now, Hindu women suffer from many disabilities. For example, one section of Hindu women, the married daughters are not allowed a share in the father's property. So still there are disabilities, and of course, in real life, the disabilities outweigh any sense of equality. So that is the way in which we wanted to proceed, and that is what the Law Commission also recommended.
Right.
The Law Commission also said you cannot do away wholesale with all the personal laws. You have to work with communities, and you have to bring them round to reform, etc. Now, very often the people are told that the communities are never ready to reform. But that's not true. Many sections of the Christian community, more than 35 years ago, had drawn up quite a good gender-just law for the Christian community. But the government of India, whether it was the Congress government or the later government, they did not at all pay any attention to it. Because governments are usually they listen to the voices of the most conservative part of any community because they feel that they are the ones who control the votes, you know. So that was never given any importance. That also some piecemeal changes only could be made. Even when Mary Roy fought her historic case, as you know, it was only, I think, communist women in Kerala who supported her in that fight in which she came under heavy attack. But the main party at that time, the ruling party, did not want to go anywhere near her. So this is a fight that has been going on within communities. It is not as if it's not there. Even the triple talaq matter, it was Muslim women who went to the Supreme Court to challenge this way of giving talaq. And they said it's not even Quranic.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court agreed with them and says it's not intrinsic, etc. And so they said that this should not be accepted anymore. And the BJP jumped into the act to take advantage. And they not only said that we are bringing a law, but they criminalized the men giving triple talaq, which made Muslim men come on a different footing than Hindu women. I mean, Hindu men who are divorcing their wives, which is patently unfair, and we opposed that. So it's not as if this movement for reform has not been going on. It has been, and that was what was required to be pushed further. I want to give one more example that many people don't talk about. There's a Bori community among Muslims, and many of them practice this female genital mutilation, which is of course banned by many treaties all over the world. In India, it is still practiced, and Bori women have gone to court against it, and they had their final hearing in the Supreme Court. After that, the judgment would have been given, but the government of India, in fact, asked for more time on that date, which was just such a blow to those women who are fighting against this atrocious custom, which actually has nothing to do with religion. So that shows that the BJP and other governments also, they don't have any commitment to gender justice. But they, especially BJP, has been using the UCC to polarize people in India, and they want the Muslim community to react adversely, and then they will say, they're so backward, and the men are so backward, they're so against women, they don't want to give women equal rights, and they want to mobilize large sections of the majority community behind them. That has been their attitude. It has got nothing to do with any commitment to women's rights. Had they been committed to women's rights, Bilkis Bano would not have had to fight for so many years, from 2002 right up to 2008, to have the people convicted, and they were convicted outside Gujarat. And Mr. Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat at that time. So there's absolutely no commitment to gender justice. They have proved in these 10 years that they support rapists and murderers and sexual offenders who belong to their party or are their supporters. So now the main question that should be asked is, first of all, how is this UCC coming in states? Will we have different laws for people in different states? That's a very big issue. And this says domicile or native of. So what does it mean? Who's going to be affected by it? It's very unclear. If you go there for a job, if you go there to study, then you come under that law, or how is it going to work? Or if you move out and you don't register some live-in relationship, can you be criminal? Can that be criminalized because you happen to belong to that state? So there's all this lack of clarity, and it's, I think, all deliberate. And there's no discussion. They say they got a lot of letters or whatever, opinions, but that's not a discussion. You have to have discussion with those who are going to be the most affected. And in this case, it is not only people belonging to different communities, but it is also women's organizations, people who are working among women and have a record of fighting for women's rights. So they didn't do any of that. And of course, they have brought it in just before the election. So whatever happens to it, whether it is contested or somebody goes to court against it, will all happen later. They will have got an issue to polarize people and polarize votes just before the Lok Sabha election. So this is a very cynical approach. And people should understand that it is not done with any feeling of wanting to unite people or give people equal rights or to protect the rights of women. For example, among tribals, there is a lot of practice of bigamy. And we don't know, maybe tribal women don't want it anymore. We don't know, nobody's asking them. But tribals have been kept out of the purview of the bill. So why? So all these questions are there. And basically, it is as with everything else. Everything is there with an eye on the elections. Whether it's the case of the Gyanvapi mosque, or whether it's a question of doing, Pran Pratishtha in the temple, or whatever it is. Everything is being seen only in the light of, will it help the BJP in the elections or not? And this is also part of that.
Right. Since you spoke about criminalization of triple talaq and the subsequent action of the government, I just want to point out or ask you probably regarding the provision in the bill on criminalization of unregistered live-in relationships. And that is probably for the first time that a legislature has come out with something.
According to me, this is a very Manuvadi bill. It is based on the spirit and the principles of the Manusmriti.
Right.
And it is also pandering to very regressive people in society, of whom there's a large number.
Right.
See, let's face it, most Indians don't approve of live-in relationships. They would like it not to happen. Most Indians don't want intercaste marriages, and this is people belonging to all religions. Most Indians don't like intercommunity marriages at all. And people think that Muslims like it, they don't like it at all either.
Sorry, when you say most Indians, you also think about the youths, the young Indians as well, you think?
Yeah, young. Oh, I'm just saying most.
Right.
You see, if you're doing it yourself is one thing. If your sister's doing it is something else.
Right.
So, therefore, they are also, in fact, the retrograde nature of this bill is that it is taking away many of the rights that women have got from the constitution and from bitter battles. And the most important right in many people's view is the right to choice marriage. And now we have to extend it further to right to choice relationship. That is something that has been fought for by women. And Dr. Ambedkar was our greatest supporter, even Mr. Nehru also in the thing. But you know, if you see the whole debate of the Constituent Assembly, this was the point that everybody was very furious about. And there's a reason for that. You see, I would say that all Indians, to some extent or the other, or say, let's say most, are casteist. Even if they have gone out of the Hindu fold and belong to another religion, they still have the caste system either in their minds or in their social framework. And a woman's right to marry is a great blow to the caste system. It weakens the caste system. Because if she marries out of her caste, especially if she marries somebody who's considered lower caste, and then, my goodness, if she marries somebody of another religion, then to what caste will the children belong? That's always been the way in which women have had to be kept under lock and key. Their movement, their freedom, and especially their freedom to exert choice has been always opposed, because it is essential to keep the caste system alive, to keep it strong. So we can see those ideas actually animating this bill, because now everybody says, oh, registration of marriage is very, nobody says bad, but our method of registering marriages, even under the Special Marriages Act, is so cumbersome and so faulty that you are putting that young couple to great risk.
Yes.
Because they have to give notice, it's put up on the board and all that. This is not giving any privacy.
Yes.
This is, in fact, maybe giving a second whole level of registration. Registers can be accessed through RTI. Registration can be accessed through somebody going to the office and demanding to see it. So if you see that intercaste couples are very often killed, and people belonging to two different communities, even if there's no, even if it's completely voluntary, even if there's no conversion, they are being sent to jail, they are being harassed, the families are being harassed. So that obviously those couples are running away. Now, if that becomes criminalized, then what are they to do? They're to invite death in order to get married. That is what this law is saying. It's really shocking. So it's not only about living. Then there are so many in same-sex relationships. Now, the Supreme Court in its usual fashion has said it's not a bad thing, but the Parliament has to. So at the moment, it's a grey area. Are they legal or are they not legal? So now what does a same-sex couple do? Do they have to go and register? What will happen to them if they register? What will be the fallout of that? And if they don't register, then what is going to happen? So these are all things which have not been thought out. They have just been put there to appeal to the lowest common denominator of many people, And it's very, very, very harmful for the concept of women's rights and women's right to choice.
Right.
Now, when you come to the live-in, not only have they made registration compulsory, but they have said it will be criminal. If you don't register, then you will be penalized.
Yes.
you'll have to pay a fine and you'll have to go to
3 months and leave
yeah,
up to 6 months.
jail also you can go to. Now the point is this, they've said if you're not 21, you have to get parental permission. Now how many parents are going to give permission? That means again you're limiting and circumscribing choice of the couple. And then you are giving such a handle to all the people who are very interested in other people's business. So supposing you have some connection with Uttarakhand and you are in a live-in relationship in Delhi, all your neighbors and everybody else are they have the freedom to go and report you to some police station and say they are in some live-in relationship, have they registered or not? So it's simply horrible. They're saying we're doing it to protect the women from violence and all that. See, murder is anyway punishable. Domestic violence covers the act. We fought for this. We were opposed by many women, but we fought for it that a woman in a live-in relationship is also to be protected under the Domestic Violence Act, and that was done.
Yes.
So already that protection is there for the woman. And about the children, there are so many judgments which say that the child should not be punished for what the parents have done or not done, and that legitimacy of the child is there, it is understood. So they are just making these excuses for actually wanting to just spy and punish these young couples, which is a sad thing. But, as I told you, a lot of people will say, oh, that's very good. And they don't even understand what the law is, what the law is not. They just think that this will stop it. Of course, nothing is going to stop it. If you're educating your kids, if you're sending your kids to other places to study, many of these things are going to happen. Live-in relationships are going to happen. Same-sex relationships are going to happen. Inter-caste and inter-community marriages are also going to take place. That is a sign of the changing times. You can't fight it. And you certainly can't criminalize these things or put those people's lives in danger as this UCC is doing. But I want to speak about another issue, and that is, of course, they have done away with the personal laws of all the non-Hindu communities. And there is certainly going to be a response to that, because even before, when the central government or law commission had asked for people to respond, the Sikh community, Christian community, Muslim community, tribal communities, Northeast, everybody opposed it. Now, they have kept the tribal community out because right now they want to woo the tribals. I mean, what that means, I don't know, but anyway. So they've kept them out, but all others come under it. And obviously they want to target Muslims and they want a reaction from the Muslims. But what have they done actually? In fact, in their talk of giving more rights to women of minority communities, they are taking away some of their rights. For example, a Muslim woman, whether she's married or unmarried, always has a share in her father's property.
I was just going to ask you that.
Whether it is ancestral property or whatever it is. She cannot be deprived. It's another matter that they don't give it to her or whatever, but her right is there. And she always also has a right to a share in her husband's property. But here when you're saying that you are bringing her Muslim women under kind of a Hindu law of succession, then if a Hindu married woman is not entitled to a share in her father's property, then you're also depriving that Muslim woman who had a share in her father's property. I think Christians also have got different succession laws which will also be affected adversely.
Right.
As will, I think, people in the Sikh community also. So what are you doing? You are actually trying to bring everybody under Hindu law, which is not equal in every respect. And then you are giving so much scope again to these non-state actors like Bajrang Dal and VHP. You know, the anti-conversion laws in Uttar Pradesh and other places, they specify that only a person who is being asked to convert, either under pressure or due to some bribery, you can say, only that person can go and file an FIR. But here we see that that person is not filing the FIR. It is all these non-state actors who are going to the police and they are getting these people imprisoned and they are beating them and all the rest of it. Christians are a very minuscule minority in UP, but just yesterday 4 Christians have been arrested, supposedly for conversion. And it's happening every day. By creating more and more of this criteria of registration, you're giving a big handle, to these non-state actors to spy on Muslim couples and people live in relations with a Muslim or married to a Muslim. You're giving them more power to interfere and to go and report these cases and so on. And things like the RAW, these residential associations, landlords, anyway, they make make it so difficult for people to hire. Now it's going to get worse. And they have also said 2 things. One is they have said that certain relationships you can't marry. Now, as we know, among the Muslim community, marriage with first cousins is very common. In fact, you can say it's the most probably common. Now, that's part of their custom and their customary law. Now you're saying it's illegal. You're also saying it's illegal for Hindus and others. Now, in Hindus also relatives marry. But I can see a situation in which nobody is really going to go to the police against a Hindu couple that has done this.
Right.
But they will be watching out for Muslim couples. Even at the time of the wedding, they may go and report it, and you can imagine the trouble it will cause. So it's giving one more handle to those who want to target the Muslim community. And I think that even among Sikhs, these sort of marriages are there. And then the other thing is that, there's something called iddat. That means that a Muslim, when she becomes a widow, 3 months she is not supposed to go out of the house and all that. That is also to, ensure legitimacy of progeny and all that. But my point is, how can you make that illegal? That means if some Muslim woman is sitting inside her house, not bothering anybody else, observing iddat, you can go and report it to the police station and say she's breaking the law because she's observing iddat. I mean, this is horrible, very harmful. Now, a lot of the inheritance are also being changed for everybody. That means Hindu women also. That means that those rights that they got, rights in the ancestral property equal to their brothers and all, many of those rights are becoming testamentary rights. That means only if they are willed, will they be able to access that property. Now we know that many people disinherit their daughters and their sisters and their, other women in their families. So then what happens? Then they lose out. What they fought for till 2002, they're going to lose because of this UCC. So this is something that is truly horrible. And then you're imposing it on women of all the other communities also, saying it's very good. So making inheritance, Bina Agarwal, she's quite an expert on women's inheritance rights. She's written about it. She says it's very retrograde. How can you make inherent rights testamentary rights? So this is, I think, a very, very big issue which people should take seriously. And I feel this law should be challenged. It's against the Constitution. It's against gender justice.
Right.
And it's really increasing the strength of a spy surveilling state.
Right.
And so it should really be scrapped.
Right.
And I'm happy to say that within 24 hours, all the major women's organizations of Uttarakhand demanded that it be scrapped.
Right. I want to ask you one thing about the bill, which I think a little bit of what you've touched upon, is according to many people, the bill is merely an extension of imposition of this idea of the BJP that all of us are Hindus.
Manovad.
And yes, precisely. And to, in some ways, not to respect the autonomy of different communities, and also to sort of float this idea that all of us are Hindus and hence all of us will come under the fold, and hence all of us should be governed by a uniform law.
But the problem is that among Hindus, there are so many different customary laws, and then people are ignorant, people don't know so many things, they're living in remote areas. What is the burden that you're placing on women? Supposing the marriage is not registered and the husband wants to, throw her out.
Right.
He can do it on the basis that the marriage is not registered. So all the other proof of matrimony is going to become completely, it's going to be of no use. And then look at the kind of expenses you're imposing on people. And then so many communities, they have their own view of divorce, their own view of remarriage. And they have been practicing that for ages. They are Hindus or they are part of the Hindu fold, but they are very, very different ways. I mean, in Kerala, even though Marumakatayam is not there, but I still belong to a Tarawad, which is owned by some 140 people who are all the descendants of my great-grandmother and her sister. So what happens? I mean, we're quite happy and we feel good about it.
Right.
So you want to do away with that? You want us to divide it and chop it up into rooms and little pieces of land? I think it's ridiculous to be wanting to impose uniformity without any sense of justice and equality. That's what is wrong with this. Right. They are for uniformity, but they're not for justice and they're not for equality.
Right. And just want to come back on the aspect of criminalization once more. And I think it was in one judgment called the Josephine judgment in 2018, where the Supreme Court considered and upheld this principle of unprincipled criminalization, wherein I think the court said that the state must have something of a clear policy and it should identify what to criminalize and what not. And criminalizing...
See, the problem is the Supreme Court has done many things. This UCC completely goes against all of that. But what is going to happen? Is the Supreme Court going to take suo motu? Maybe people will go to the Supreme Court, I'm sure they will. But it is absolutely, according to me, against the Constitution and this should be scrapped.
Right. And to how do you...
Not a single court has penalized an inter-community couple till today or an intercaste couple till today. In fact, what they said, that even if the girl is maybe 17 years old and she has gone with somebody of her own accord, that has to be taken into consideration, and the parents should not be just allowed to put him in jail and get him accused of POXO and all that kind of thing. So all these things have been to courts before. And courts have always defended the rights of women to marry anyone of any caste or any creed. Every time it has gone up to the court, it has been, the couple has been given protection.
Right.
Now this bill seeks to completely take them out of the protection of courts.
Right. And in terms of a judicial review of this legislation, how hopeful are you that there will be intervention?
I don't think it will come of its own. I think people will have to go and challenge it. We have to think about how to do it.
All right. And now I think we come to the close of the discussion, and I just want to ask one final question. And that is a general, I think, political question, very broadly speaking, which goes beyond the UCC bill. And especially and it's a question especially for young people. How do you think that we should maintain hope in a realm of aggrandizing executive, in an executive that is very aggressive in the implementation of its policies? And that's...
I think the first thing is to understand what is being done. And I think that most young people who have got different ideas are dreaming different dreams. When they actually come to realize what this government is trying to do, first of all, they will not support it. And if they don't support it, then they're certainly going to oppose it in whatever way is possible. And that's what will create the hope. Because they have their lives ahead of them.
That's true.
We have got, maybe a decade or so. But for people who have their entire lives, I feel that, if they don't do something, they're going to not have a very good life here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.